Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of inspiring business owners, bringing you insights and challenges from the entrepreneurs who are shaping our world. Join us as we explore their paths to success. Now here's your host, Charles Luttrell.
Good afternoon, listeners. I'm here with Denise Thomas. Denise, welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Let's go ahead and get started. And the first question, tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, I'm Denise Thomas. I'm a TEDx speaker, 6-time international best-selling author, and creator of Cracking the Code to College. I work with parents of middle school to high school kids to create the high school path that wins college acceptance and multiple scholarships. It's all based on a strategy that won my 2 homeschooled teens 17 scholarships, totaling more than $199,000.
Wow.
They got 4 years of college debt-free with cash left over. They got paid to go to college.
Wow. That's great. And this is good. I'm really excited for this. I have a 16-year-old who is about to, she's going to homeschool the last 2 years.
Oh, fabulous.
And she's going to be ready to, she wants to go to college. So this is exciting for me as well.
And perfect timing.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us, why did you decide to be a business owner?
Honestly, phone calls. After my kids went off to college, my husband and I were full-time RVing for 5 years. But the entire time I would get calls or emails or messages asking, what did you do? My friend or cousin said I needed to call you. And I found myself copying and pasting the same info. Now, Chuck, I didn't know if this was going to work for other people, or my kids geniuses or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it did. And when I decided to take it online, I asked one of the graduates of the program, so what is different about Cracking the Code to College and everything else out there? And she said, without skipping a beat, it's the difference between Six Flags and Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
She said they both have the same components: rides, food, entertainment. But Disney does 2 things differently: marketing and storytelling. And in Cracking the Code to College, we are marketing your teen to the colleges and scholarship committees and telling the story of who your teen is.
That is great.
It's a blast.
Yeah. I wish I could extend this podcast. I want to talk more about the RVing because I'm going to get into that myself.
Oh,
but
fun.
We'll talk about that off. That's something I'm very interested in.
Absolutely. Well, I may have different opinions than my husband, but it is a great conversation for sure.
I cannot wait. Oh my God. So why did you choose this industry? Tell us a little more about that.
Well, when I'm in business groups, many newcomers come along and they're asking things like, well, how do you choose your niche?
Right.
And my answer is always, what would you do if you were not getting paid for it? Because entrepreneurship is a lot of work. It takes time. And you have to want to get out of bed and do this thing anyway. So you have to love it. So what is it that you love to do, and who do you love to work with? And for me, it's working with parents and homeschool families who are driven to help their teens succeed in the high school to college process.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the ones that are going to let the program live in cyberspace. They're not, squirrel knowledge junkies just looking for a lot of stuff to sit up there and not do anything with it. Because we've all done that. Everybody I know, has found stuff that they enjoyed listening to on a podcast or a webinar. It's like, oh yeah, that's a cool thing. I'll buy that. It's not terribly expensive, blah, blah, blah. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter how much money somebody pays. People will let things sit in cyberspace.
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't happen with my clients. They don't let the program live in cyberspace. They hit the ground running and they win.
Now, are these courses that you created?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about these courses. Yeah.
Well, it's all revolving around what is it that we had to do. And I'll be honest, when we first were going through this process with my family, I had no idea what I was doing. None whatsoever. I was grasping at straws, but I did a lot of research. I tell you, I added it up. I did more than 7,000 hours of research for my own kids.
Wow.
I was up
That's a
till
lot.
1, 2 o'clock in the morning every single night.
Uh-huh.
And I became an extremely good researcher. Matter of fact, somebody said, Denise, your Google profile is worth millions. It's like, yeah, it probably is. Because when I quote Google anything on Google Chrome, I always get what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to sift through miles of junk and garbage and incorrect answers. Google knows what I'm looking for and it gives me the right answer right away. So that's been incredibly awesome, you know. But it's
Yeah.
because of all I trained it. I trained it. Google is an AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was training it to what I was looking for. Um, when I first started this process, my husband was working for a corporate agency for 15 years or so, and all of a sudden he was laid off. And then he got laid off again, like just a few months later.
Hmm.
And then the stock market crashed. Well, you know, we're the family that pays bills no matter what's coming in. If there's money you can find, you're going to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
So the money starts running out, and I realize we have no choice. We have to declare bankruptcy.
Oh no.
So we had just enough left to buy a lawnmower and trailer, start mowing lawns, and hire a bankruptcy attorney.
Wow.
Now the bankruptcy was liquidation, so if you could touch it, it was gone. It was sold.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people hear the word bankruptcy, they don't know what that means. This was liquidation. It was gone. Books,
Mm-hmm.
toys, Christmas decorations, pots and pans, you name it, that it was it.
Mm-hmm.
And since we needed to move into a small apartment because, oh yes, the house was going into foreclosure, that also meant that our 2 dogs had to go. Now,
Wow.
if you know, if anybody out there is dog people, these are not dogs. They're not pets. These are your furry children. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do, to
Yeah.
watch my kids run into the house crying as their dogs were being driven off by their new owner.
Yeah.
But it set me on a path. We were in this new apartment for just a couple of months when all of a sudden it hit me. Wait a minute, my daughter's starting high school. That means college is around the corner. How are we going to pay for this?
Yeah.
We have no savings. There's no 401k left to borrow against. There's no house to borrow equity from. And oh, yes, that bankruptcy means we can't co sign for those student loans everyone loves to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, about every 2 years during election season, it becomes a ping pong ball, right?
Yeah.
But the bankruptcy took that off the table. So now what?
Yeah. Right.
And Chuck, that's where my research began because I knew there just had to be a way. You know, when we were talking to our kids as they were growing up, the statement always began when you go to college, not if,
Not if. Yeah.
right? And I know a lot of families out there are the same. You know, especially, well, I was going to say, especially if you went to college, but even if you didn't, many families have, you know, their children are the first to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
It's a desire that you have for your kids, for them to do better than you did. So I started doing the research, and one of the first things that I came upon was that 70% of college students graduate with some amount of student loan debt. And that can be $5,000 all the way up to, you know, a bunch of zeros.
Mm-hmm.
But Chuck, I can do the math. If 70% are graduating with debt, that means 30% are graduating without debt. What are they doing?
You took the words out of my mouth. It's like, what are they doing? Right?
Yeah.
How is this possible? Yeah.
What are they doing they're not telling us about?
Right.
And sure, there's a extraordinarily small percentage, way fewer than people believe, of kids that are athletes that have some athletic scholarship. And look, if you've got kids that are high school athletes and you're expecting your kid to go to college on an athletic scholarship, please talk to me because I need to talk you down off of that ledge, because you're going to jump off of it when you realize that's not an option.
Oh.
Okay, that's just not something that's really going to happen for the vast majority.
Mm-hmm.
And the other segment of the population, well, sure, there are geniuses out there getting full ride scholarship. There's a few of those. And then there's also the families who have either scrimped and saved, or they're blessed to have employment or businesses where they can afford to just pay for it. And I'll be honest with you, I have a girlfriend, her business, she makes 100 grand in a weekend. And she asked, Denise, why do my kids need scholarships? We can just pay for it. I said, yeah, you can.
Sure, right.
I said, but wouldn't you rather buy your kid a house at graduation than pay for a piece of paper?
Sounds good to me.
I mean, that's number one. But in addition, there's actually some things that come along with winning scholarships. Just the win itself means a lot to other scholarship committees, means a lot to employers. You're telling these people that someone else has invested in you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes along with this. It's not just, being able to pay for college on somebody else's dime, which is pretty sweet, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was doing this research for my kids, what I did, not knowing what was going to work, I said, okay, so there's 30% of kids, this smaller percentage that's not the ones I mentioned, that are just doing this in some other way. What are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I put together for my own kids, if it sounded logical that it might impact college acceptance or winning scholarships, honey, we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't care what it was. It sounded logical. We were going to do it. We had time. My kids were just starting high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting because the first scholarship my daughter applied to, she was a junior in high school. And oh, by the way, scholarships actually begin in kindergarten for college. So everyone is leaving money on the table.
Yeah, that's kind of eye-opening to me. And starting in kindergarten, right? I would.
Who's looking at that point?
Yeah, my thought
Right?
process is, look, at ninth grade is when you start thinking about college. I had no idea.
Well, and most families don't even think about it in ninth grade. They wait until middle junior year to even start it, because that's when the high school counselor hands the kid a packet and says, here, go take the ACT or SAT exam. And that's usually the first word most families get about it, right?
Gotcha. Right.
And then they don't start thinking about external scholarships until after their child has made a decision on what college they're going to attend. And now they see a gap in their finances. Oh, the college is offering X, and we were planning on paying Y. And how are we going to find this much extra cash?
Right.
Right. And it's not too late at that point, but it is too late to get a crud load of money because you've already made those decisions. So for families who have waited to that point, I usually have a conversation, and I'm going to go with 8 times out of 10, I put them in my college level program. Because not only do scholarships begin in kindergarten, they don't end until professional school. There's more money out there in many families. Kid got an acceptance letter, we're done. No, sweetheart, you just get started. There's more money out there. So my daughter got her first scholarship, first one that she applied to in junior year. It was $10,000, and it was a national scholarship. Again, most people are told, don't bother with national scholarships. Nobody wins those. And I'm quoting directly probably 90% of parents out there. I'm laughing all the way to the bank. I have 2 kids. They were homeschooled, and they each won 3 national scholarships. It ain't that hard. You just have to know what to do. You have to know what to apply for, and then you have to know how to win. So it's a twofold, 2-prong.
Yeah, so it's kind of like there's money out there. You just have to find it, right?
Well, finding it is actually easier than you think, because there's 1.8 million scholarships totaling $23 billion given away every year.
Wow, that's amazing.
But
I would have never thought that.
with that many out there, they're easier to find than people believe. There's really a ton out there. However, the problem then becomes winning them and applying to the right ones, because a lot of families will say, well, my kid applied to, 20 or 40 scholarships. First of all, 20 or 40, I'm thinking you're just getting started.
Just getting started, yeah.
Right? Because they're thinking that that's a lot of scholarships. Hon, you haven't tried yet. You haven't even tried yet. But there's a skill to this. There's a strategy of finding the right ones that your kids have the best chance of winning. And in my Cracking the Code to College program, I teach you 17 ways of finding those scholarships that your teen has the best chance of winning.
Wow.
It's a blast. It's a game. It's like a treasure hunt.
Very cool. I can't wait to check it out. So, rewinding a little bit to, you're going down a path of, bankruptcy. You're trying to find. You got these kids. You're going to college. So, did the industry choose you, or how did you choose this industry? Right.
Well, good question there. I would say that. Well, okay. So when we were full-time RVing, I mentioned that we were getting calls about all this, and eventually it just sort of happened. And eventually I decided, well, let's put this online, because it was really just word of mouth at that point, and just going online with it. And as much as I wanted to just focus on homeschoolers, because I know that I homeschooled my kids for 20 plus years. Truth is, this works for everyone. It's not just homeschoolers. But the best part about homeschooling is that homeschoolers are thinking about college earlier than the masses, because the masses are relying on their high school counselor to take the lead. Now, when I teach at homeschool conferences and conventions, one of the first things that I say is, if you are a traditional teacher or high school counselors, I'm about to step on some toes.
Oh.
Because the truth is, they're not trained to do this. They have very little insight and training that they can offer your children. And there's one high school counselor per like 400 plus kids on average today. You're lucky if your kid attends a private school where they have a special college counselor that's just dedicated to that. Right? So waiting is what they expect you to do. Wait till junior year for that. You hear that all the time. Wait till junior year. The problem with waiting is that these kids who are making this work, some of them began this process in middle school.
And I would not have expected that. I never even thought about that,
Yeah, well, nobody's thinking about college except potentially some homeschoolers. And the reason is because as a homeschool family, as your kid is exiting 8th grade, you now have to think about what your high school curriculum will be in light of college is next. So at least you have that on your mind. Now, I will say that the very first homeschool conference that I taught at, I had a vendor booth as well in the vendor hall. And I had scholarships written all over the giant banner that I had. And I kid you not, families would walk by, they would look at the banner, and they would keep walking. Why? Because like everyone else, I'm not ready for that yet. Wait till junior year for that.
Right. Junior year. You hear it so much, right?
You hear it constantly. So I went to the printer and I printed out a little banner that I put underneath my scholarships banner. And I called out the age group where it's best to start, 7th through 10th grade. Wow. Now they're starting to stop. It's like, wait a minute, you can get scholarships that early. Not only can you get them that early, but to start the process, it's important to have time. Time is your friend. I talk to families who have juniors, and I'm counting the months. How many months do we have left to fix what we didn't get that's going to be important in the college application and scholarship process?
Right.
Because otherwise, I'll give you an example. One of the scholarships my daughter and son applied to is a national scholarship. It's very large. And it's for seniors, high school seniors. Well, my daughter was the guinea pig. She's the oldest. So she's filling out this scholarship application her senior year. She's homeschooled. This application, I kid you not, begins with 9 pages of check boxes of typical high school activities and leadership roles.
Wow.
Cheerleading, dance team, band, blah, blah, blah. Student body government, whatever. She didn't have any of that. She's homeschooled. But she had an impressive resume, but what was on her resume, there were no boxes to check. So her application went nowhere.
Yeah.
Fast forward, my son is 5 years younger. I now have the application. So before he started high school, I said, so here's a list of things. What looks like fun to you? Now, notice I didn't say it's on the list. We have to do all these things.
Right.
Okay. High school should be fun. And we've missed that boat. We're stressing our kids out with telling them they have to take 15 AP classes and they have to do this. No. My kids didn't have any AP classes. And they only had 2 dual enrollment classes. And they got into every college that they applied to with top scholarships.
Wow.
But now my son, we added a few of the things that were on that list so he could check a couple boxes, right? And I had no idea what's the minimum number of boxes that needs to be checked to get past this computer, because that was the whole purpose. They're expecting 200,000 applications.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going through a computer first with the check boxes.
The check
and
boxes, right?
It's going to spit out the ones, I don't know, 20,000 maybe, that they're really going to send you the real application that you can fill out.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right.
My son gets the real application. He becomes a national semifinalist. But you can't get there unless you know what you need. And if you didn't know this ahead of time and you did this senior year, you would be flipping lucky to have had exactly what they were looking for, the check boxes that they needed. So it's a process, it's knowledge, and it's putting that knowledge to work.
Now, this is prior to you doing this on your own, right? This is a learning process, right? Where you're learning to figure this out, right?
Absolutely. So we took, my daughter was the guinea pig, my son was next, because the question is, okay, so it worked for one kid. She had 9 scholarships that she attended college on. And I always say attended college on, because today, not only the media, but other parents will say things like, oh, my son won $400,000 in scholarships. No, they didn't. That is a bold-faced lie. What they are doing and what the media does is the media will pick out some inner city kid who is likely to be low income, who applied to more than 100 universities, and they will add up every offer from every college and say that kid won $1.2 million.
Wow.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. If you do the math and say, here's the number of colleges they applied to, divided into the number of the total money that they say he, quote, won, on average, he was offered $30,000 per school.
Okay. And that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's not a bad number. And I do not discredit the kid. He's got to be good. He's got to have the chops. He's got to have his good GPA and his good test scores to even get the scholarship offers. That's awesome.
Right.
But 2 things are happening here. He's low income, meaning he's getting to apply to these colleges for free. Oh, yes, it's not free to apply to colleges. Everyone has a fee, an application fee. So it's better to have some, discernment on what colleges your child applies to, so that you're not wasting money just to get a kudos that says, oh, he got into XYZ school, but they didn't offer any money. You can know that ahead of time, right? So I say that my kids attended college on because they actually did. This is cash in the bank money that they got. Right. So it's the wisdom of understanding that what is out there is not necessarily being straight with parents. And it's twofold. If you think about it, it's also telling parents that they can't do this. Well, if somebody won $1.2 million, where's the money for me? That's everything.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right?
It is.
You think about that, and it's like, well, I'm never going to have a chance at that, so I even apply.
My kid's not that smart, and I hear that a lot too. Some families won't apply. The kid won't apply because they don't think they're smart enough. They think that only geniuses win scholarships.
Only young Sheldons.
You got it. Love that. Love that show.
Great show.
So here's the thing, though. I've heard people say that. Matter of fact, I was coming off of a stage in California, and this was before COVID. And a mom came up to me and she said, your kids must be geniuses because my kid applied to 40 scholarships and won none. And my heart sank because what I did not mention on that stage, and I always try to mention it now, is that literally half of the scholarships my kids won, $100,000 worth, did not ask for GPA or test scores.
Oh, wow.
It was simply writing an essay on a topic that they were interested in.
Wow.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
Anyone can do this.
That's very cool. So at this point, you figured that out. You figured out that there's money out there. So how did you get started? What were some of the challenges as you're going through this process of, I think I can help people with this? Tell us a little bit about how you got into this and what were some of the challenges as you get into this?
For the business side of it, for sure,
mm-hmm.
One of the challenges is, I like to call it squirrel, shiny object syndrome. Because as a new online business owner, you learn real quickly that you have expertise in your area, but you don't have expertise in online marketing. What worked as a local real estate agent or a local service provider isn't going to work online.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you begin to feel like you need all the bells and whistles out there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there does come a point in your business where you must have certain assets in place if you're going to play with the big boys. For example, if you want other experts to promote you to their audience, then having affiliate tracking software is essential, but you don't need that at the beginning. Now, on my actual business side, one of the biggest challenges is dispelling the myths that we come into the process with as parents. We believe only geniuses win scholarships.
Yeah.
We're told don't apply to national scholarships. Matter of fact, I was teaching a group of high school counselors last year, and after two things happened. Afterwards, the host said one of the comments that he got was that they're doing this. I said, no, they're not. If they were doing this, they would have the same results that I'm getting, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's problem number one. And another one emailed me and said, you mentioned XYZ scholarship, that's a national scholarship. We don't promote national scholarships for our kids to apply to because, and I quote, nobody wins those.
Mm-hmm.
What she did not know as a high school counselor is that this national scholarship begins at the local level. And yet they're telling people not to apply.
Yeah. That's frustrating.
It is. It is. It's a challenge that I have to overcome with families. And, again, some of them want to be hands off and rely on their high school counselor, and it's a personal choice. But if you want the best for your kids, if you want them to have the greatest opportunities going forward, this is how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to think about it. It's not just about college. Sure, they have the money now. They can go to college without all the stress, without necessarily even working during college or worrying about when the next semester's bill is going to be due and how are we going to come up with it, right? Or the mounting debt.
That was the very next statement I was going to make was, let's talk about that, right? So you got all these semesters and debt, and you got to pay, and next thing you know, you're up the eyeballs in debt trying to pay for this.
A lot of kids, Chuck, will start thinking about dropping out at about junior year because that's when the wisdom kicks in at about age 20. Mm-hmm. And they realize how much money they're already in debt for.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem then, if you drop out, well, now you don't even have the degree behind you to help you pay off that debt, which, by the way, you still have to pay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it could take, what, 20 years?
The average right now is 21 years to pay off a bachelor's degree alone. Now, here's the thing. It's not that the debt is high. It's that they're taking that long to pay.
Yeah.
Because the average debt is still under $35,000, graduating under $35,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
They should be able to pay that off in about 10 years.
Yeah.
For you and I, that's a car note. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Right. But for someone just coming out of college with their first job, it's entry-level income, That's going to be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of kids. Not very many are starting with a $75,000 a year job.
And isn't that something that is kind of a myth as well? You get a lot of counselors and teachers that'll tell kids, well, you go to college, get a degree, you start working, and you pay your degree off the first year because you're working in the job you want.
Yeah, that never happens.
Right. I hear that so much. It's like, oh, you'll pay your college off the first year you're working. How do you do that?
Yeah,
Especially
no, not
nowadays with
happening.
inflation,
Yeah,
it's not
not
going to
happening.
happen.
Not happening.
Right.
Now, my son was coached very well. Now he did 4 years with no debt, and then he went an extra 2 years, and he had debt for those 2 years because we weren't planning on that.
Mm-hmm.
But his dad did a great job of coaching him with negotiating his salary. He said, wherever you go, obviously know what your cost of living is going to be, but then add another $1,000 that you can put in the bank for your salary.
Yeah.
That's your salary negotiation. You've got to be able to have some cash to put in the bank, and you have to be able to pay your debts because you might have a car note, we got car insurance, you've got a cell phone bill, you've got utilities. Kids don't think about that. They've
Mm-hmm.
never had to pay bills. I'll tell you one of the things that I mentioned in my TEDx talk. A mom had asked me to talk to her daughter. Her daughter had been offered a nice scholarship at a particular college, and mom could afford the balance. That was fine with them.
Mm-hmm.
But then daughter wanted to attend her, quote, dream school, close quote. Dream school to me is another way of saying high-priced college that's not worth the money. And this school doesn't offer scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mom didn't ask me to talk her daughter out of it. She said, would you talk to her? I said, sure. So we just had a conversation and we did the math together. And what I showed her is that with Dream School, she's going to graduate college. She had a particular job she wanted to be in. Okay, so let's look up the entry-level salary. Great, you're going to bring home about $2,900 per month after federal taxes. We didn't bother with state taxes and all the stuff else that comes out of your paycheck because that would be a little much for a teenager to understand.
Yeah.
But we did the calculation for the debt. 10-year note on Dream School is $2,900 per month. She graduates bankrupt.
Yep, absolutely.
I said, you're going to be living on your mama's couch forever. I said, even if we change the information in the calculator and we say, let's do 15 years or 20 years for this particular debt.
Yeah.
She still can't afford to get off her mama's couch and pay that debt.
Yep, that is so true.
It's not happening.
Yep.
So, parents were never taught how to do this math. They're not doing this math with their kids. And look, the second you start talking about college, y'all need to sit down and do the math. First, mom and dad have to come to an agreement as to, anybody and any adult involved in the college finances, get together and make decisions and stick to it. Then have a conversation with, said teenager. Make sure they understand, here's the limitations. If you don't get, scholarships, you can't exceed this, period. This is the way it's going. Get those expectations out in the open early, because that was the incentive for my kids. They knew mom and dad were not paying for college. We didn't have the money.
Yeah.
We had no savings. We couldn't sign any debt, any notes. And they were going to college.
Mm-hmm.
So they worked for those scholarships. As a homeschool kid, during their, I'm going to call it their English time, they wrote scholarship essays. Why not? It's writing.
Yeah. And what a great segue into, I want to change up my last couple of questions here because I think this is interesting. And it kind of, I like the way to transition, because what I wanted to say was, not how we can contact you, because that's one of my last questions. But I wanted to ask, so what's the process of, reaching you for getting help with doing what you're doing with these scholarships? What's that process look like? I really like this because I think what you have is so valuable.
Well, thank you.
I really like this.
I will say that for most families, I really want to get on a call. I want to get on a conversation, a Zoom call with the entire family, not just dad or not just mom, anybody who's involved, the 2 or 3 parents that are involved in the decision, and the teenager or teenagers, if there's more than one. Let's get on a conversation and talk about what this looks like and if it's a good fit for you, or if I have something that's a good fit, because I do have more than one program. It all depends on what your goals are for your family. This is not a good fit for everyone. I do turn families down.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason is this: I want you to win. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. And if I look at, some of the things that you're telling me, it just might not be a good fit, but I might know someone who is that I can refer you to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the process usually begins with a conversation, and everybody gets their questions answered, because that's one of the most important things. One of the things that I think families need to understand: I do not supply you with a list of scholarships. That would be fruitless.
Mm-hmm.
1.8 million scholarships out there. How stupid that would be. I'd just be giving you a bunch of random stuff. That's just ridiculous.
It wouldn't fit that particular family or that particular.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding what is the best fit for your kid, the
Right.
things that they can win, which is why I teach you 17 ways of finding the right scholarships for your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, is this a free consultation?
It is.
Oh,
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah,
That's
it's just for the purpose of, it's a good fit call.
the
I'm
fact
not
finding,
doing,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
I'm not doing coaching during this call. This is just to see if this is a good fit and which program might be the better fit. There are some families that all they really want or need is finding the scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they have decided is all they need. Fine. I'll give them just that particular course. I do not do that often.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I had one family, a gentleman who was a friend of a friend of mine, and she said, "Hey, Mike, Mike needs to talk to you about his kid. He was going into senior year, I believe, and he said, all I need is a scholarship part. Can you just break that out of your program?" I said, I could, but then your kid won't win any. And he was taken aback by that.
I'm sure, right?
Okay. Finding scholarships is easy. Winning them is the strategy, and the strategy starts at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't do quote sales anymore, but this was early in my business, and I had a Black Friday flash sale or something. And I said, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We had just passed the flash sale 2 days. I said, I will give you the entire course for the flash sale price, but you have to promise me you will go through the entire course from beginning to end. You will not skip steps, and you will definitely not jump straight to finding scholarships. He said, I promise. I said, okay. That was November. So in February or March, I was at a conference with this girlfriend of mine, and she said, oh, by the way, Mike said, you're a genius. There are things in this that no one thinks about. It will totally change your perspective on college, on scholarships, on how this really works from the inside. And it's a total blast.
That's great. And, I think a lot of us, and especially me, I don't really, I only know one person who actually went through a process to get scholarships for their child. And the main reason they got was because they were just really, really smart. And this child was very sought after,
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really blind to this whole process. And when I, saw you and looking at this, I'm like, this is really interesting. So I like this.
It is a blast, I will tell you. It's a lot of fun all the way around.
Yeah. So what are some of the expectations for you in, working your business in the next year or two? What are you looking to accomplish?
Well, I'm hoping to get a few more books out. And in November is my College Prep and Success Online Summit. That'll come out again.
Nice.
And I do have another big project, but I'm not ready to go public with it yet. So stay tuned.
Nice. It's very awesome. So how do people contact you? How do we get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website. My website is getaheadoftheclass.com. That's getaheadoftheclass.com, because that's what you want. You want to get ahead of everybody else.
Which is a brilliant website, by the way. I love it.
Thank you. And at the very bottom in the footer, there's a contact page, and that'll send you to an email. Um, but the better thing is to put in getaheadoftheclass.com, but then /apply, APPLY in small letters. That will get you into my system where we can have a chat. And I'll send you from that, just ask a few questions. And then from that, I'll send you my calendar link. I usually take calls on Wednesdays, so we can have a conversation and see what might be a good fit for your family.
Right. And I was going to say that, so that'll take you right into the consultation to see what we can do and if you're a good fit, and is it something that we can push you through, or there's another option that you could go for the family.
Absolutely.
That's great. Now, do you social media, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm mostly on Facebook and LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Facebook mostly, but both Facebook and LinkedIn is what I don't always remember to duplicate to LinkedIn, but I try to.
Mm-hmm.
I have a presence on Instagram, but I don't follow it much. So when people try to reach me through Instagram, it could be forever before I'll see that there was a message.
Mm-hmm.
But both Facebook and LinkedIn gives me notifications when someone is messaging me. So it makes it a little easier, but so they can always reach out to me there. I think it's listed under Denise Thomas Debt Free College is how you'll find me under both of those particular ones.
Okay. Very cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, really appreciate your time. It's been very informative and eye-opening. It's stuff I never knew about. It's like I didn't realize that there were so many scholarships out there that could be won.
And it's a complete blast. And there's only one for kindergartners right now. But as you start moving towards senior year, there's more and more. And so there's literally more than 1 million scholarships available for high school seniors. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back down the other side of senior year, and you're talking about current college kids, grad school, professional schools. And so now there's hundreds of thousands available, and again, fewer as you get further down to the professional school side, the med school. Yes, there's scholarships for med school, nursing, law school, veterinary school. So my college level program covers all of that's available, as well as helping your teen write the resume that gets past the applicant tracking system.
Wow.
Now, for those who are unaware, we used to have a resume and we would bring it to a company, or we'd find, our particular employee we wanted to work for on a newspaper ad or whatever, and they'd send your email, send it to this post office box, whatever. Well, that's not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a few smaller companies that do it that way, but more than 66% of U.S. employers are using an applicant tracking system, even if they only have 500 employees,
mm-hmm.
because it helps them. The applicant tracking system is a computer that is reading the resume, reading the application, and weeding out, although not always in a good way, those who may not qualify, or at least ranking them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then your hope is to get past the applicant tracking system into a human hands.
Right.
So
Makes
I go
sense.
through that with the resumes, and I also help them to write what's called the federal resume. Federal resume is a different animal all in itself. This is required by any company who has a .gov at the end of their website.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that includes your state, that includes your local government, that includes NASA,
Wow.
and a lot of other agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's extraordinarily comprehensive, and it has a very, very specific method of writing it, to get past the applicant tracking system.
Right. Because my daughter's thinking about being an astrophysicist. So I think that would apply to her, right?
Absolutely. And there are the federal government has some really cool internship opportunities for college students as well. My son was able to get a job with the Air Force as an intern a couple times, and it was a fabulous opportunity. And what's cool about that is that the type of internship that he had, when he was talking with NASA, they saw that on his resume and they said, "Is this?" And she named the type of internship.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." And she said, you need to write that on there. We know what that is.
Yeah. And that would be cool
It has
because,
meaning.
right. That would be cool because my daughter, she loves astronomy, and it would be really cool to see
Beautiful.
her get, an internship with NASA or something like that.
Wouldn't that be fun?
God, that would just make me so happy.
And her too, probably.
It really would. Well, Denise, thanks so much for taking the time. Now, can you, this is a lot of information and it's overwhelming for especially a parent like me. What's one thought you can leave us with that to help us, kind of dissect everything that you put out for us today? You told us.
Well, I'd say the very most important thing is don't believe everything somebody tells you.
Love it.
You're going to find that misery loves company.
Yeah.
That's a biggie. A lot of parents, matter of fact, I could not believe this woman said this. One of my clients, her sister-in-law, who she said is brilliant, her husband's brilliant. They're both like attorneys or something to that nature. They make a lot of good money, and daughter's brilliant, etc. And she told her to say, she said to her, "Oh, your daughter shouldn't bother applying for scholarships. Our daughter didn't win any, so yours won't either."
Oh, that's heartbreaking to hear.
How rude is that?
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
Because what they said is, your kid is stupid. My kid is bright and didn't win, so neither will yours. Don't
So
bother.
neither will you, right?
How
We didn't
rude
get
is
any, so
that?
you won't either, right?
Yeah, I when she told me that, I said, you just put that right out of your head. I guarantee your child is going to win scholarships.
Yeah, so judgmental.
I'm telling you, it was misery loves company.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a lot of stuff like that. So
Wow, that's crazy. So would you like to offer a discount to our listeners?
yeah, I got something really cool for y'all.
Oh, great.
Okay, so here's the thing. Cracking the Code to College is my comprehensive premier program with my personal support. It's $5,000. But for your audience, I have a digital 6-month access program that includes all of the same content for only $500.
Wow.
Now, why only 6 months? Because the most important thing is I want to ensure that you're not going to let it sit in cyberspace.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, it only takes 7 weeks to complete it. And then all of your work, your notes, and your templates are yours to keep.
Wow. Thank
you.
So
you'll have that link in your notes.
Thank you so much. That's so grateful for that offer. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So I will add that link that you sent me into the show notes, and our audience can take advantage of that. I'm definitely going to look at it.
And if you get into that and you're like, this is great, but I really want Denise's support, then go ahead and get on a call with me. We can always apply it directly to the full program, and so you won't miss a beat.
Right. Appreciate that. Denise, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time and enlightening me. And I hope our audience has been enlightened by listening to this and getting some good information from it and really reaching out to you for your help and assistance on dispelling these myths, of these scholarships.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you so much. Bye. You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team Podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Connect with us on the web at qacteam.com, Facebook and Instagram at qac.team. Thanks for listening.